Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicole Airy, speech faculty here at Citrus College and co-chair of FLY with Sarah Bossler. Welcome to part 2 of our Humanizing Online Education series. If you missed part 1, it is now available on the FLY YouTube channel. Dr. Senya Lubisich is here with us today to lead our discussion. She has been a full-time faculty member at Citrus College in History and the Humanities Department since 2004. She holds a doctorate in European history from UC Riverside and is a certified online instructor and is currently serving as the online education faculty coordinator. She has served as a member of the Academic Senate, Curriculum Committee, and Citrus College Faculty Association. She teaches world history, survey humanities courses, and is part of the honors program. Dr. Lubisich is the Faculty Learning Institute's chosen distinguished faculty member for 2021. Yay! And we are so delighted to have her here today to share her ideas for enhancing our online teaching and human connection. Thank you, Dr. Lubisich.
Thank you so much. That was very formal. I'm really hoping that we can be very informal as we talk about some of the tools. This is, again, as Nicole said, the second in a series on humanizing. And so if you're watching this on YouTube and didn't watch the first, I would really encourage you to do so, because Nicole really went through the principles and reasons why humanizing your course is important. She gave a lot of really wonderful resources and information. And I'm coming in today to talk about some of the tools and how you can actually build some of the things that Nicole was talking about. So if anything that I am walking you through is redundant, if it's like, yeah, it's been a year, I know how to do that, let me know and we can skip ahead and look at some other tools and strategies for really building that human connection. And I think one of the things that we've all missed during the pandemic is the human connection of the classroom, of getting to be with students, see their facial reactions, read their faces. We can get so much information from that. And I know that students have missed us. They miss having that sense that there is a person with expertise who is guiding them, who's a resource for them. And it's really amazing how small things can have a big impact when it comes to humanizing your course and building back some of that online connection. So I wanted to start with just some tools and tips and tricks for icebreakers and introductions. There's no wayfinding to an online course unless you build it. It is not like a student can walk onto campus and see the tent set up and ask somebody, where's the LB building? What classroom is this? I'm sure we've all had the students who stop us on campus or come by our office and say, I'm looking for this, can you help us? Online wayfinding it has to be much more deliberate. We have to really guide our students to us and to our courses. And so one of the ways to break down that technology barrier is with a welcome video. And I've listed some of the tools. There are so many more that are available for creating videos. But I was thinking of the things in our current toolkit that we might be familiar with or want to use. So Zoom is a really easy way to make a welcome video that you can send to your students. Adobe Spark, Studio. There's a tool called Animoto, which takes small still photos and video clips, and then we'll put them together in sort of a slideshow collage with music. And then if you're more adept, Camtasia for more advanced film editing is expensive, but gives you the whole suite of editing tools. I also wanted to talk about some icebreaker discussions just as a way to welcome students into your class. You can make it as lighthearted as you like, talking about hobbies, favorite things. You can drill down into what are students' goals for the semester, or back to what was your pet, and just sort of build those connections with them. And then another really important thing is sharing tips for success with students and soliciting their feedback. So I was going to share a little bit about Padlets, making a wiki page, and a tool called Answer Garden, which is sort of a nice way to get anonymous feedback in your class from students. So I'm going to start there, and I will ask Nicole and Sarah to help me keep an eye on the clock, since when you share screen, everything goes away, and we'll see where we start. So welcome videos, to me, are some of the most impactful things that you can create for a class, and it can be incredibly low tech. So this is my studio that you're looking at here. Especially when we first got started in the pandemic, I had really enjoyed using the Learning Glass studio that's on campus. And I expect when we get to come back to campus, it's going to be a really busy place on campus. It's an incredible resource that we have. We've done some trainings on it in the past through the Center for Completion, and I highly, highly recommend it. But in the absence of a studio, more often than not, it was propping my cell phone up in a window, because then I would get some good light, and taping my script so that I was sort of looking at the camera. So this is sort of my replica of that studio. We have all found ways to record in Zoom with virtual backgrounds or whatever the case may be. But I just wanted to reinforce that it really can be low tech. You can literally record a nice welcome to your students from your iPhone. You can upload it into YouTube or straight into Canvas Studio from your iPhone or your smartphone, if you have that. And that it's okay for it to be imperfect. I really, really like things to be very polished and put together. We were sort of saying before the session started, there's that desire to have things look pretty. And I like my videos to be clear. I like to get rid of all of those hesitation words that I use. When you start recording yourself, you realize how much you say "so," which is my word that I always go to. You catch those things. I used to impose a strict lockdown on my house. Nobody could move. They all had to be quiet. Like, pets had to be behind closed doors. And I found that students actually really love the imperfection. I was recording a longer video, and my son walked right through the back looking for his baseball uniform. And I got more comments about, hey, so what position does your son play? And is that high school? And I mean, never mind if the dog jumps up, that's when people really get excited. They're like, that's a great dog. Let me see more of your dog. And I thought maybe I should just hold the dog up and get one of those mouth animators and have him deliver the announcements, because students would pay much more attention to my dog than to me. But it just gives them a sense that you're human. And that's really what this is about. They are struggling with how to present themselves online. And I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is just sort of letting go. And so I realized I'm giving you a view into my neighbor's backyard in this picture. But really, it can be done quite simply. If you do want to get things that are a little bit more polished, I would really encourage you to try the Adobe Spark tool that's available. Through campus, you have a subscription to, I think, all things Adobe, or pretty close to all things Adobe. So if you go to the Adobe Spark login and you log in with your Citrus credentials, you will have access to all of these wonderful tools that are in Adobe. And if you look down below, you'll see a bunch of little recent projects. This is where I make a lot of the videos for online ed, just because it's a really simple upload. Your picture. So I upload PowerPoint slides in. You can upload an image. You can upload video clips. You can use a whole host of icons if you want to animate something a little bit or give a cartoon feel to what you're doing. You can add music and narration really easily. So if you're working from a script, it's fantastic, because then you've got your captions all ready to go. But it really is a simple way to create that video. And it's a tool that everyone on campus has access to. And I always love those tools. When I know that I can, that they are all available to faculty, then I will promote them to no end. So in that list I had on the earlier slide, we all have access to Zoom. We all have access to Studio. We all have access to Adobe Spark. It's some of the others, Animoto and Camtasia, that you would have to either get a trial for or purchase. And so I'll always promote what we have in our toolkit, because I think they're great. But when you log in, this is what a project template looks like. You're just clicking to add either a video, to add text, to add pictures, to add an icon. There's a little speaker where you can record your narration. And so it really does make for a simple and I think professional looking video, if that's one of the things that you're trying to do. If I'm making a video that I want to use over and over and over, I turn to these tools and use them to create those welcome videos. The chat flashed up on my screen. Are there questions about this? Oh, just about the Adobe Spark. It is, Sarah's right, it's just with your Citrus account. So it'll ask you on the login page if you're logging in as an individual or if you're logging in through your institution. And so you should click on the institutional login and it will actually take you to, once you enter Citrus College EDU as your email address, take you to something that looks like you're logging into our campus system. And it's there. And it's true, the free accounts don't give you much. So Animoto is, I think, about a 30-second little clip. And so this, again, is, I think, a really simple way to create some professional videos. So as an example, this is the intro that I did for my courses. The basic frame of this I made in Adobe Spark. And then I added some cushioning around it by taking it into Camtasia. But I thought I would just play this for you to get a sense of how I introduced myself to my students. So please let me know if you can hear the sound. I should have clicked to share computer sound.
My name is Senya Lubisich. I'm full-time faculty at Citrus College, where I've taught world history and humanities for more than 15 years. I'm a proud graduate of UC Riverside. I earned my doctorate in French history after trying a big handful of other majors and courses of study. I felt pulled by every course I took and finally settled on history because it allowed me to study everything. Fortunately, I had good mentors who helped me broaden my knowledge with the world history teaching field. I love to read and to write, but I've also learned the importance of being a public historian. I've been an advocate for historic playgrounds and the imaginative work of Benjamin Dominguez and his concrete clay sculptures. I serve as a historic and cultural resource commissioner in the city where I live. I came from a big family, and I have a big family. We love the Dodgers, and we travel. Each time we get to visit a new place, we learn how rich the world is, how much there is to see, and how wonderful it is to interact with different people and cultures. It's actually a nice connection to the field of history. I hope that you find your educational journey to be enriching and fascinating. I'm looking forward to learning with you.
So again, all of that was just dropping some still photos into an Adobe Spark. I had recorded those video segments on my cell phone. So I uploaded those little video clips and then just narrated in between. So I sort of had my script written out. You can see me looking to the side of my window where I have it taped up. So it's always trying to figure out eye connection. I'm so impressed with our colleagues who have that down. I do these videos and I'm like, how did you get so straight on with the camera? I'll never nail it, I don't think. But it really does just sort of let students know what your process is. You can share why you love the courses that you're teaching or the field that you're a part of. I will say in a recent evaluation, I saw a colleague who made a course trailer video. And I have course trailer envy. It was so phenomenally done. It looked literally like you were walking into a Nova documentary or science program. And I thought that's what I was watching until I saw this semester. From your home or wherever remote ed has taken you, you will travel millions of miles. And I thought, this is incredible. If I was a student, I'd be so jazzed. But just those types of communications are wonderful. We'll talk a little bit about a liquid syllabus in this presentation today. So I put this video in my liquid syllabus. I also have it in my homepage when students first log into the class. I want them to hear my voice. I want them to get a sense of who I am. You can be as private as you would like to be and maybe just talk about your discipline. But I think for students, it helps them catch the excitement of the course when you engage them this way. So if you've not played with Adobe Spark, I think you'll find it really easy. They have the music. I think that one is like Jaunty Cafe or something like that. But you can kind of pick a soundtrack to go with this. Are there any questions about these videos? Would it help if I pull away and look at and pull up the Adobe Spark webpage? How is everybody feeling about this?
I would appreciate that, just because I'm like, wait, how do you get it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I may already sort of be logged in, but let me see if I can do a new share. Jump over here. So, oh good, this is just a login, so I can, are you seeing the computer page?
Yes.
Okay. So this is all of the plans, and you can just sort of ignore that and go straight to sign in. And it'll ask if you're a teacher, student, log in with your school account. So you click on that. And then here's where you just enter your Citrus email. And I'm going to my company or school account. And then it takes me literally right into our Citrus College interface. So you click login. And then here was that screenshot that I had grabbed in the PowerPoint. So you've got all of these different options. To get started, you can just click that plus sign. You can actually create templates. So if you want to sort of create a brand for a course and have the same template each time you're making a video, you can create a template yourself. I just go down and I grab video. And then it always walks you through a whole bunch of like, do you want to create a story around this? Very much marketing minded, I think. But then it will load essentially the video builder for you. They have all sorts of tutorials and quick tips. You can get help along the way. But this is that other screen that I was showing you. So you have the option to add a title page. So you can have a layout to the page that you're looking at and title your lecture. You can pick themes if you want to sort of, again, create that brand. And then when it comes to just adding content, you can just grab the little icon that you want. You can take a photo from your webcam, or you can upload. And let's see, what have I got? I got some baseball pictures. And it'll just drop the photo in for you. So it's really, I think, in terms of sort of quick upload and easy interface, you can do that with any tool. And then if you want to narrate, you can just click on that narration button and then add your comments to this. And here's my camera show stealing catcher. That's my son there in the photo. So again, I think it's a really great tool to have access to. And since we have it through campus, make use of it. I think you'll find it's a really nice way to make videos. Was that helpful? Was that Raquel who's asking about how to get to it? Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back.
Thank you.
My slides. Oops, we're jumping. So the next thing that I wanted to show you, we're just icebreakers. And this was something that Nicole spent some time on. We were brainstorming in the last session about icebreakers. And I will reinforce this idea always. It lets you get to know your students. It lets your students share a little bit about themselves. They are seen. They're not just sort of a name coming into the course. And it's also, from the online ed perspective, a great way to have a check-in, to ask students to get into the course, to participate. We'll talk, when I talk about the Liquid syllabus, about long text for your courses that can go into the class schedule. So when students are looking at my class in the course schedule, it tells them that there's a check-in activity that's due the first week. So that's my first warning shot that they're going to have to log in and get started right away. And I just create, have always sort of focused on hobbies. It tells me a lot about students to see what they're interested in. It allows them to connect with each other. I have had more students in COVID set up gaming groups out of the icebreaker. They'll find out that they're playing the video game. They'll look for each other online, and then they look for each other in future discussion boards. It builds this community of, I want to find the person that I'm gaming with at night and see what they wrote about this primary source. So it allows them to connect. Students will find common majors, common employment. It's really a nice way for them to begin to build those connections within the class. You learn a lot about the demands on their time with icebreakers, who is working, who is taking care of children or elder parents. So it gives a lot of insight into the shape of your class. So what I do, and I would encourage everyone to do, is give students guidance on how to add a profile picture or an avatar, just to personalize what they're presenting to you, so you're not getting a gray outline. And then I have students just briefly introduce themselves and then share 2 hyperlinks of hobbies that they have. And then as they reply, they need to try to guess what the hobbies are. So students should follow the link, try to guess what the hobby is. So you'll see a lot of comments to that effect as they're trying to figure out what people are interested in. So I grabbed this sample post with the student saying that they're currently studying to be a teacher, that they came to this realization when they were training new employees, that they had so much fun doing that, that they're a full-time student, just want to finish school. They've changed their major, but excited to be studying something that they love. And then you have the hyperlinks that they provided. So ukuleletricks.com. You may not actually have to click through that link to be able to guess that this is somebody interested with in music and the ukulele. Time to find out which bizarre animal cross something. But these are just, again, sort of a way to engage students. There are lots of great ideas floating around for icebreakers. We had a bunch that were shared in the first session. So I would encourage you to talk to colleagues, get ideas from them, and play with it. Just see what you can come up with to start building community with your students and inside your class. I'm going to sort of assume that everyone is fairly comfortable with the discussion board feature in Canvas, which I know is always dangerous to assume. But does anybody want clarification on how to create a discussion board? Okay with that? Again, this is a tool that's inside Canvas. Nobody has to go outside of Canvas to access it. And I always think that's really valuable. The less we ask students to jump in and jump around, the better. The hyperlinks certainly don't do that. They're getting carried all sorts of places, but it's fun to see what people are interested in. Sometimes reminds me how old I'm getting. So in this, the tips and tricks is something that I've seen used at the beginning of the semester. It's something that you can do at the end of the semester that you collect to share with a future semester. But I think it's really important to let students know that their expertise and experience is valued, that they can share it, that they can establish their own community of support. And so for things like this, we have tools like Padlet, which I'll show you. This is not something that is owned by the campus or that we have a license to. So if you want to use Padlet, you need to create your own account. I recycle my Padlets every semester. So I clean them out and just reuse them because you have a limited number that you're allowed to have with a free subscription. And I've never really run up against feeling like I needed a whole lot more. I never want to get too redundant. And I say that knowing that my students would probably say quickly that I'm overly redundant with discussion boards. But Padlet is just sort of a nice way to engage them. I think it's also good to know that you can turn any page in Canvas into a wiki page. And that's, I'm sure, sort of techie jargon. If you think of Wikipedia, that sort of crowdsourced information, a wiki page is the same thing. You can allow students to add and build a page collectively in that public module space. And so that's another option. And then Answer Garden is a tool that I was exposed to in one of the @ONE classes I took during the pandemic, and I think it's great. So I will show you that as well. So Padlet really is just sort of a digital bulletin board. So what I ask my students to do in the orientation module is to share tips that they have learned from taking online courses, things that have helped them to be successful. They have usually just read an article about what it takes to be a successful online student. So I tell students in the instructions, if this is your first online course, pick something from the article that made sense to you and share it out here. You can sort of see what they're sharing out. Working in a quiet and comfortable environment helps me to focus while learning online. I've also found that rereading material is helpful. Spacing your time so that you have 2 full days that are dedicated helps with being less stressed. A dedicated place to go. All of this makes me think about how much I miss our library, honestly. that study space is so valuable. Managing my time. So these are all just little tips that they can share out. And it's just, again, a nice way to draw on their expertise. Other faculty have pulled Padlets at the end of the semester and said, now that you're at the end, what would you say to a student who's going to take this class in the upcoming semester? So what piece of advice would you share? And then they share that Padlet out with the future class. And so it's a nice way, again, to sort of share learned experience with others. And so I'm happy to, again, sort of pull away. I think I have one more slide about Padlet. There are really easy share options. You can always provide a link to copy a Padlet, or copy a link into a Canvas page and then take students out to the Padlet website. But I prefer to embed it. That way the Padlet stays in our course page. So this was a Padlet that I made for students who were starting to hear back about their college acceptances. So we just had a page saying, I heard some good news, and we gave students a place to share out where they had received acceptances. And we have a really happy student who's getting to go to Yale in her transfer. This was for one of my honors sections. So it was just sort of a way, again, to give students a chance to have that community. It's always, when it's good news, fun to have people saying, where are you going and where have you heard, and sort of that buzz in the classroom. I always think of spring as being the miserable wait for acceptances, and then hopefully lots of celebrations as they come in. So I used Padlet to try to recreate that for a fully online course to give students a chance to shout out and get some kudos back. So this was one of the ways that I used Padlet. Would this be another good place to sort of jump over to the website? Would people like to see this? All right, make that jump. Let's see. So this should be, oops, I lost my screen share. We just have to wait for that menu bar to retreat. So Padlet is really very, very simple. Again, I work entirely with a free account when I'm using Padlet. So adding a Padlet once you've logged in and created your free account is really quite simple. And they have all sorts of different templates that you can choose. So you can pick a wall, you can have one continuous stream or a grid. I like the way that the wall displays. It's sort of varied, and I think it makes for a nice visual. So you click that. And then you can pick all sorts of backgrounds. You can title it, you can add icons, and just have fun with creating this bulletin board for students to build on. I've used this in the online ed committee back in the before times when we were participating. We had a streaming room for a conference, and so faculty were joining remotely. And so I use this for back channel conversation. I said, as you're listening to the sessions, throw up the things that are standing out to you, and we'll build a conversation around what we're seeing on screen using Padlet. So I think there's some really cool for faculty who might want to embrace a HyFlex way to sort of capture what's happening in discussions when you're not actually physically with your students. But once you've picked all the things that you want, you hit next and it gives you share options. And again, I'll close this and go back to my board. Oops. if I want to come in here to the one that I've made, the share buttons are pretty familiar. So you can get your link to copy, but embedding is what I like to do. So what you're essentially getting is a whole bunch of HTML code. And when you're in Canvas, down at the bottom of any Canvas page, when you're in the edit frame, there's that little icon for embed. And I think if I come back, it looks like the two, I usually have nicknames for things like this. I don't have a nickname for the embed. But you'll just click on that, paste your code in, and then the Padlet will render in your Canvas page. And if that's something that would be helpful to see, we can jump that direction as well. But again, I think it's a pretty simple interface, and I can have a significant impact when you're trying to get that engagement from students in your online course. So switch back here. Other things that
Senya,
yeah.
Denise has a question about never being able to make more than 3 Padlets, I think it is. How many times a semester do you clean yours?
I have particular uses. So I have for sort of what are your Unit 1 takeaways as a reflective. I have the tips and tricks, and then I had that share your good news. And I will copy that same Padlet into multiple classes. And usually students, I leave it anonymous, and I tell students, if you'd like to add your name, you may. And I ask them just to use their first name, not their first and last name. And as you saw in the screenshot, most of these are coming up as anonymous. Students are not, I think I blurred out a few students who had put their names because of this presentation. But that's how I cheat not having to pay another subscription. It's an ongoing discussion at my house. You're subscribing to what? Why? How is this going to help us? I'm like, oh, it won't help us at all. It's going to help my students a lot. But Padlet is, you're right, Denise, it has, I think, a limit of just 3 Padlets. So I was actually surprised that it let me click in and start another one. I thought for sure I was going to get the congratulations, now you can pay message from Padlet. Are there other questions? All right, so the next thing that I had talked about were wiki pages. And I just wanted to point out that in any Canvas page that you create, you have the option to allow teachers and students to edit. So you can create a almost end of module page that says, what was the most challenging part of this unit, and ask students to list those out. You could do the same thing I was doing on the Padlet and say, what is the one thing that you would say is helpful to be successful in an online course, and have students type that in. I have used, to be honest, wiki pages in Canvas less because I run into issues where students inadvertently delete the page. So somebody goes in and my instructions are gone, everything's gone. There's just a blank page with one person's sentence floating there. Canvas never really deletes the page. You can go back and pull up the history and revert to the moment before it was all deleted. But staying on top of that ended up feeling like it was more work than it was worth to have the wiki page. But it is something, if students are working in groups, maybe there's a small group project that you're having them do, I think a wiki page would work well there. I had tried putting in, red letters, do not delete, and even the red letters got deleted. So it is, roses have thorns. It's a useful tool, but you have to be aware that this has some editing issues with it. But I also do think it allows students to have a little bit of ownership of what they're contributing to the course, seeing their space in your virtual classroom. So it's another good tool. And then this was something that I think is really cool. Answer Garden does some of the same things that a wiki page does and that Padlet can do. This also is a free tool. It's not something that we have a license to at Citrus, but I found no limits yet in creating an answer garden. And so I just put at the end of sort of or I guess the beginning of our second week, I number my pages in Canvas. So this is a little ancillary page to the start of our second week. And I just put in 1 to 3 words, share how you feel about the class after week 1. And so this just takes the phrases that come up the most and gives them larger space in the word cloud. Words that are smaller are used less frequently. But it was just a good way to get a sense of how students are doing. In the humanities course that I teach, we have 2 weeks of really tough readings. And so I've used Answer Garden there and just said, how hard was it? And it sort of lets students give off a little bit of steam. I'll get things like, I understood nothing. I hate Plato. So it gives me a chance to circle back and say, okay, you made it through. Let's reiterate that these are sort of the big takeaways that you should be focusing on. I don't need you getting lost in the details in this course, but it just allows for some dialogue where I can sort of take a temperature of the class as a whole. The same way if we were sitting in a classroom and everybody came walking in and didn't want to make eye contact because nobody had gotten through the reading and they all hated it, I would be able to gauge and adjust my discussion that way. So this is another really cool tool. And I'm assuming we'll share the slides out with everyone. But this is a video made by Michelle Bacancy-Brocken. If you were in last week's or the previous session for Humanizing, you saw her referenced a lot. She has been leading the charge absolutely in humanizing online courses. And this is just a nice instructional video on how to do an answer garden. It's about 8 minutes long, and I'm not going to take the time to play the whole thing here. But I will just play a little segment of it, and then we'll make sure that the link is shared out.
What you're seeing here is a course designed in Canvas that uses a tool called Answer Garden to create a very simple and easy interactive check-in for students. So I'm going to show you how this works in this Canvas course, and then I'm going to show you how to set it up using Answer Garden. So within this module, students have been learning about the concept of humanizing. And so the prompt asks them, what does humanizing online learning mean to you in 1 to 3 words? I am going to go ahead and type in an answer here and click submit. It says thanks for your answer. And now if I click over to the next page, I'm going to see a word cloud of all the responses that this particular answer garden has collected. And you can roll this over from term to term, and it just keeps collecting responses from those who answer the question. And when a response is entered more than one time, it gets bigger. So if I take my mouse and I put my cursor over the word caring, which is what I entered, you'll see that 6 folks have entered that as the response. 9 have said connection. And it's a really interesting way to just see how others have responded to the same question.
So she walks through how to create that first little entry field, which is called a micro garden. So it's sort of nice because you can you could use this, I think, really easily sort of as a pre-test measure of what do you know about this? We're going to be talking about this concept. What are the things that come to mind? And have students collect that. And then at the end, you can show sort of how their understanding has expanded. You can repeat that exercise. So it's again, fairly straightforward and simple tool to build into your course. I'm always in awe of how clearly Michelle can explain the technical side of pulling information and putting it into a Canvas page. But this is something, again, if you've been to any of my online ed committee meetings, I love word clouds. So it's my one of my default tools that I go to. And I really like how Answer Garden works in the Canvas pages. So this was another way to solicit that student feedback and engagement. And just, again, to give them a chance to participate in the course and for you to really see where they are standing or sitting on different topics or concerns. Are there questions about this? I saw the question just about online teaching community. It's our online ed committee. And so on campus, once you are certified as an online instructor through our either the @ONE training or the local trainings we've been doing since the pandemic started, we automatically add you to the online ed committee Canvas site. Online ed committee meets once a month during primary semesters. And it is a place where we try to share out what's happening on the federal and state levels relating to online ed. We talk a lot about new resources that we're acquiring. So it is, it's another place where conversations are happening. We report to Senate, so you can sort of get a bird's eye view from the reports that we submit at the Senate meetings about online ed. But there's long been a dream that we could create a community for online teaching technology and get people either doing T in technology or, I don't know, tech tips in technology and T, but that's sort of the structure we have right now. And I will give a shout out as Denise is asking the question to what the science department is doing, the division is doing. They have incredible meetings. And I'm laughing at your comment that T will bring in all the Canadians. T is wonderful. I hope more than just the Canadians. But there's really some amazing collaboration going on. And I often wish that we could take all of these sort of silos of innovation and open them up into this bigger field, because people are doing incredible things in their courses and within divisions and departments. I just always feel so fortunate getting to see what people are doing. So if there aren't questions.
So let's take a look at how to set something.
Let's see if it'll let me slide on. So ongoing connections with students. All of the things I've been showing you are sort of those getting into the class, taking a chance to build some community. But there's also just ways that I think are really important to keep building connections with students. And one of the things that's talked about a lot are liquid syllabi. And so there are all sorts of places where you can create free sites. Google Sites is what I use. I have played with WordPress and done some things there as well. But I just like the accessibility on my devices of Google Sites. And so I tend to build my liquid syllabi there. I also think building in some breathing space in your courses is another really important way to humanize your course. One of the comments we hear from students a lot is that we don't understand that they have really busy lives. And so a simple page that says, take a moment to breathe can have a really big impact for a student who's feeling overwhelmed. And then the last are personal messages. And there are ways to do that that are not so onerous for faculty. You don't need to sit down and pen out 35 individual emails, but that can really make a difference for how students perceive your engagement with them, and that will elicit their willingness to engage you. So these were some of the next things I wanted to move towards and share with you today. So again, this is a reference out to some of the @ONE resources. They do a humanizing challenge, I think, several times a year. I would say, I know that there's usually one before the primary semesters begin. So I will be watching, and we usually try to send out through the division shells announcements about some of the @ONE challenges that come up. This was, I think, a 3-day humanizing challenge that they had. They've had some 5-day challenges, but it's just sort of taking you through different principles and incrementally building some tools that will help you implement those principles. So this is another wonderful video that just sort of talks about humanizing pre-course contact, but also creating a syllabus that actually lives with students. If you have a liquid syllabus, your syllabus is essentially rendering as a web page. And that's oftentimes more easy for students to keep track of than a document that they have to go into your course to find, and they have to open and then see. This is something that I know faculty across campus have started to use. I keep hearing about different people who are creating liquid syllabi. I've had the chance to see some of the liquid syllabi that faculty have created. And again, it just gives them insight into who you are, what your course is. And I do think it's a really useful thing to have before the start of a semester. I really don't change my liquid syllabi very much, very often. I pick the things that I know are going to be constants, and I put those up for students to see. So the books that I use sort of have this constant presence on my liquid syllabus. My contact information is there. My teaching philosophy is there. Resources that they might want to have access to on campus are there. And then you can always sort of add a page that's really easy to edit. So if you wanted to put assignment dates into a liquid syllabus, you can update that information as needed. But the bulk of what I've created is really meant to be something that I could put on our history website on campus, that I could have in the class schedule. So if students are looking at classes and they see that my liquid syllabus is there, they could click on it and see what they're getting into with the class. That it's just sort of a way to communicate what I'm doing for students who might be anxious about taking my class. Maybe they read a scary ratemyprofessor.com review and they're thinking, I don't know, but the liquid syllabus might win them back over. So it's just a way to create that ongoing touch and communication with students. And again, I'll just play a little bit of this video. I just realized as I've been switching around, I may not be sharing computer. Have you been hearing the sound, I hope, as I've been showing things? I hope so.
Yes.
Good.
Ask you, I'd like to, oh, thank you for recording. I'd like to get started by asking you to share with me in the chat what you know about a liquid syllabus. Is it new to you? Do you have one? Have you seen one? I'm just a little bit curious. Brand new. Okay, a lot of new. Good, good, good.
I'm going to jump.
That imposterism prevents the.
You can see this is a longer video, and I didn't actually go through and pull where she's talking about it. So rather than sitting here clicking through the video, again, we'll provide these as links if you're interested in seeing how she walks through sort of the concept and principles of a liquid syllabus, and then how to build it as she goes forward.
The sharing of one's ideas.
Between this. So this is the liquid syllabus that I built for my world history course. You should recognize my little intro video from earlier, so I have that embedded there. I really try to phrase things as learning is a journey. It's like you're traveling. So you have my introduction to the course and to the teaching philosophy. And I set this up as a link. So here is, did it follow me to the web page, or is it still staying on the PowerPoint?
It's on the PowerPoint still.
It's still on the PowerPoint. All right, so I'll go to a new share. So this is the actual active site that I have. So I just tried to lay out, here's what the books look like, which often helps students as they're shopping around if they know what the cover looks like, particularly when there are multiple editions. I've talked about what assignments are pegged to the readings so that they understand. You will have multiple choice quizzes, primary source analyses. This is a supplemental text, so they know what they're getting into. The ways that they can communicate with me. Over here, I have a little message about office hours. Arizona State did a hilarious, I thought it gives you insight to my sense of humor, video about fear of meeting one-on-one with my professor. They call it FUMF. And if you can overcome this syndrome of FUMF, you'll find that there are all sorts of benefits that come to you, like better grades and more confidence in class. But I just wanted to sort of break down the idea that office hours are really big and important, and you better have your questions thought out before you come and meet with me, and just show that it's really there to help students. So it's a little reminder about that. What you should know about participation, so what I expect from them in the class, what they should know about late work, and then a list of resources for students, and then just talking about time management at the bottom, about being successful. One of the things that is happening in online ed that I hope will have a positive impact on campus is from the federal down to the state, we are going to be required to give information in the course schedule about our classes beyond just the modality and unit count. We need to be able to tell students if they're going to need different software, or if there are tools that they need, if we're doing online proctoring. And so I think as we expand our use of that long text in the course schedule, and as faculty build more liquid syllabi, it becomes a really nice way to condition students to looking at that text and finding out more about their course. So Sarah was very kind in letting me know that the long text for my summer and fall courses doesn't have my liquid syllabi. It was there for spring, so I need to figure out how to fix that. But it is just a nice way to start the communication with students early on. I don't often have my courses ready or published weeks before the semester. So when I send a welcome letter to students, I can include the liquid syllabi link and encourage them to check it out and start thinking about what text they're going to need, what they might need to anticipate for the course in terms of their schedule or whatnot. So are there questions about the liquid syllabi? And I can actually...
Senya, did you use a template to create the page?
I did. Google Sites gives you all sorts of templates. And I was just thinking I should pull that up so that you can see. Oops, I didn't mean to go to Gmail. I meant to go here to my drive. So here is the build page of Google Sites. So you can pick a template when you come in. And then again, it's, I think, quite user-friendly. So in this page, there was a blank box that said add photo. And I went looking for photos on Unsplash, which is a really wonderful tool for Creative Commons. The images there are open use. So I just kind of go through and I find images that I like and that resonate with what I'm trying to communicate. There was a text box here. You get all sorts of boxes where you can add either an image or a video. And you can see over here to the side, there are different layouts that are offered for pages. So you can pick the layout that you like. You can create a table of contents. You can add in like a slideshow of images if you like. So you can do some of your own editing the templates, adding dividers, adding text blocks. You can link in from YouTube. So if you have videos that you've made that you've put on YouTube, you can pull those in. And so you have a lot of different options. You can add pages, so you can create links. So for example, if I wanted to create a link from my teaching philosophy, I could create another page behind this one that links out and then have that menu list at the top. So in the Google Sites, you can do all the building that you like, and then you have a chance to preview and publish the site. And once you've published it, then you can share that link out with students. And I saw the chat flashing a lot. So are there questions that I can help tackle?
I just posted a couple examples from Becky Rudd.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
But I did notice when I looked yours up, when I pasted the URL in, they were all going to a Google error page. So I don't,
Okay.
we might need to just double check it and make sure that those are active. But yeah, there's some good stuff in there. I'm sure there's other people who are using that too, but
there
I
are.
think that feature is really nice.
So it's being able, again, to sort of share this out is really important. And I think a valuable piece of this. And Sarah, you've been my eyes on so many things. An error message. Oh no. I have to see what's happening.
Yeah, people must think I have like nothing to do, but these are just the things I feel really passionate about.
Yeah.
But I think that in terms of the student having the most accurate and updated information when they go to choose the class, at least from an OER perspective and just a textbook affordability perspective, I think that information is the most control that we have over that is a link in the course schedule as students are registering, because there's transition to a new bookstore website, which is very exciting, but sometimes the information of the textbooks and into the course schedule, there's still some work to be done to make that accurate at the time students are registering. So this is one of the best ways we can do that right now as a tool for students.
And
Sarah,
again, I think
links available already?
I'm taking them straight out of the course schedule right now.
Oh, fantastic.
I put them in the chat. Yeah, it's a text, it's not a hyperlink in the schedule. It's in there's like a little text box where you can add things about whether the class meets in person and, but that you can put that in there through the department. The division assistants can assist with that.
Is this part of the description of the course? Oh, okay. So it's not a separate, okay. So maybe that's something to work towards, because if you have to type in those long hyperlinks, that's easy to mistype.
Well, it's to copy and paste it is what I've been doing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I wish it was a hyperlink. It's not in an area of the schedule that allows for that functionality, I think, though.
Fantastic.
But again, I think that's a really good thing to be aware of as we're talking about where we go with Banner, with all of the various tools. A schedule that has URLs that aren't hyperlinks is much less useful than one that does have that. So it's good to know where we need to go. So again, I appreciate so much that you put Becky Rudd's examples in. There is no one way to do this. It's really the information that you want to get out to your students. And again, I prioritized what would require the least maintenance in terms of editing for myself. Some faculty are much more robust and they actually provide all of the due dates for the semester, and that's all online. And mine is a little bit more generic than that, but it's just, again, a way to let students know what they can expect, hopefully build some excitement for what they are signing up for. And I think ultimately, if they feel that connection, they're more likely to log in and to get started. They kind of want to see what you're going to do. And it really does help get them engaged early in the course. And I think that's a big part of getting students through, sort of getting them in, getting them used to how it works, and finding that rhythm together is really, really important. So I'm going to come back to the PowerPoints. This is an example of just that breathing page. And I think it just lets students release a little bit of stress to see that you acknowledge what they are going through. I pulled this from one of the @ONE courses that I took, just because I liked their sort of mindful breathing, like literally just stop for a moment, take a deep breath, and relax. I feel like it's certainly become worse in the pandemic, that I find students who are just sort of stuck in spinning. And a lot of times when they've been in my office hours, I'm just saying to them, hey, okay, let's just stop and let's just reset. Like, let's just pretend that this is the new start and we're going to be okay going forward. If I can get you to walk with me now, then we're doing great. And it's just taking that moment and saying, I know that work is crazy. I know that social life is hard. I know that there are all of these demands, and learning in whatever context you have for your study space is not ideal. But if we can just stop for a minute and take a breath, then we can regroup and we can start moving forward again. And I think for students, the recognition that they are stressed out, that they have a lot of anxiety about how they're doing, where they're going, what's going to be happening, is a really important acknowledgement of seeing them. And I think that that's really one of the most important things that we can do in humanizing the courses, that we can take a look through the screen at who is there. And so that's another important, I think almost in some ways counterintuitive. We're thinking so much about building our courses and moving them through content and taking that stop. really does make students feel that they can keep going. And I think it's important for us too as faculty. Having that stop yourself is really important and helpful. So this was just a simple page in a module. As you're going through, so okay, we've just looked at all of these things. I'm not even going to ask you to do an assessment yet. I'm just going to say right now, just stop, take a break, breathe, think about what you're learning. When I've done this, I have a picture of, it's actually one of my kids taking her dog for the walk. And I just loved seeing her take off up the street. And I just said, so it's just, create a new headspace, find a place where you can not actively think about what we're doing, but maybe just find that moment of reflection. The other thing that you can do that is, I think, terrifically powerful are those individualized messages. And so I just grabbed this picture. This is in the gradebook. And if you click the little, I call them breadcrumbs, the 3 dots next to any gradebook item, actually in the gradebook, it might be an arrow. So if I'm misspeaking, I apologize. But it'll drop down a menu, and one of the options is message students who ... And you have 4 options that you can choose from. Haven't submitted yet, haven't been graded, scored less than, scored more than. And that's just a way of sorting students. So usually at the end of each week, I go through and I use the haven't submitted yet, and I send out a message, and I take away, you can see in the screen, it says no submission for 0.3 mandatory orientation. I usually keep that text out. I replace it with concerned that you're missing work. And then you can personalize that message field. You can send a message that's saying, hey, I noticed you didn't turn in some of the work from this week. I'm a little bit concerned. Are you okay? How are things going? How can I help put you back on track? And it goes as an individual message to all of those students who've been sorted. So they are receiving it as a direct message from you, not as a group email. And students really do respond to those messages more than almost any other thing that I have sent out. I can send out announcements. I can send out inbox messages to the whole class. There's something about the way that Canvas codes these gradebook messages that students pay much more attention to. I'll do the same thing, scored less than. Hey, I'm writing because you may not have done as well as you wanted to on that assignment, and I just want to see, would coming to office hours help? Do you want to come and talk to me about this? And I also think it's really nice to send the kudos, the scored more than. You did a great job killing it on this assignment. Would you mind letting me use it as an example for others who might have struggled? And it's just, again, that sort of personal touch that's really easy to do from the Canvas gradebook. I think it's one of the more powerful tools that we have for direct communication with students. I do get a lot of response to announcements when I title them specifically. So I sent out an announcement. I usually send one out at certain points in the semester. So as we're getting into finals week, I'll say, week 3 or week 13, coming towards the end, how are you holding up? And I'll put that as the subject heading, and students will respond to that. Oh, thanks so much for asking. I really appreciated that you asked me that. And it sometimes surprises me that they're taking it so individually because I've put it out as a group announcement. But they really do see that I'm asking and that I'm soliciting an answer from them. And so not everybody answers, but a lot of students do. And I learn a lot about how they're doing. And I do get requests for help. So sending those types of messages is another really good way just to let students know that you are there, that there's a person behind the screen, and that you value them and that you're concerned about them. So messages. So that was my run through a whole bunch of tools. I'm happy to go back and answer any questions, but if I have one thing that I can say about humanizing is to see your students and to let them see you, that you don't realize how much presence you bring into a classroom and how much students feed on that until we don't have that as an opportunity. And we're sort of left with, oh man, like how do I get that joke to land? I used to tell this joke in class all the time, and now nobody, there's no laughter on Zoom. One of our colleagues in social behavioral sciences said that at the beginning of each Zoom lecture, he has a picture that he puts up saying, "This is how you will laugh." And he says, "I'm telling a lot of jokes, and this is how you're going to laugh to the jokes. You know, you're gonna, you know, put up the crying emoji, or you're all gonna snap like this, and that's going to be your laughter." He said, and it's true. Nobody's going to unmute themselves so that the speaker can hear them laugh. It's this sort of sad, lonely existence. But there's that rapport that comes in being in the same space. And I do think that some of these tools may not replicate it, but they allow us to create a space that's much more connected online than just simply moving through content. So that was what I wanted to present. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions or go back over any of the things that I've shown you. Please let me know how I can help.